Do you have a copy of the agenda in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Lazo, just confirming, we are doing item 7A tonight, yes?
Can you remind me 7A, which one that was in?
The final city hall and public infrastructure budget?
Yeah, that's a presentation. I think, let me see how many slides it is. Yes, but that's really all I have tonight. It's about eight slides.
Okay.
Yeah, so it should not be.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. My headset didn't work, but I can hear you now.
Technology is amazing when it works.
Yes.
And Mark, we're
But man, when it just doesn't.
and we're live on YouTube now, Mark, but we still don't have a quorum.
There's my camera. Get the light a little better.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I've been trying to get my computer to work and it's giving me trouble.
Seems to be a theme.
Well, the lighting, I can never get it right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Ugh.
Okay. We'll just need one more member, Mark, and then we'll have a quorum.
Okay.
Michael Jones.
What a great day today it was. Like, I was actually able to get outside and do some grilling. My wife took the kids on walk through Blooms Park. Beautiful day.
I was in the office for 10 hours. I just got home.
Oh.
Mark's drilling already.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Good. That's great.
yeah. So Michael, you'll appreciate this while we're waiting. And actually, any man or woman who decides to clean their own grill. So my grill, I had not cleaned my grill in I'll just say a very, very long time, in excess probably of a decade. And I will tell you, I finally did it last weekend because I said, this is ridiculous, right? You ever have those projects man, I just got to do this now, right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what though, I think I forgot how dirty a job that is.
Yeah.
Man, it's 10 years worth of chicken and beef, and I'm actually amazed we didn't get animals in that thing. So,
Well, you sound like you got ahead of the game. You must have known it was too nice if you did it a week ago.
Can they meet or can
Good job.
If you just do it, they can't approve the minutes or anything, but you can make the presentation,
Okay,
yeah.
I guess so.
Because you don't need, if there's no action, you can do that, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're not sharing yet.
I'm going to put my hand.
You're not sharing yet, I don't think.
No, yeah, I'm waiting.
Mm-mm.
Actually, I can. Let me just do that.
It's after 7, okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to call Lynn and see if he's,
Yeah.
maybe he may be trying to get on or something. Let me do that.
So we're still waiting for another member to join, right?
We are, yeah. We're live right now, but we're still waiting for another member. And if another member doesn't sign on, I can still do my presentation, but you won't be able to actually formally take any action on approving the minutes.
Okay. All right. So we will. Okay. What time do we want to give that person, whoever they may be? Do you want to give them 5 more minutes or
Lane's going to call right now, so I may have an update here for you shortly.
Okay. Take your time, all good.
Sounds like he's here.
I think we may have a member that's going to be physically here present. He's going to be walking in soon.
Physically.
He's got the minutes or agenda.
Lynn's coming there. He was. Lynn was knocking on my window.
Oh,
He's like, okay, who is this? Where'd he go?
we have our fourth member, Mark.
Are they all online?
Yeah, but we're here.
Feel free to take a seat anywhere up here.
I have his.
So we can get started, Mark.
Is it Len?
Yeah. Here.
Okay, all right. All right. Good evening, everyone. This meeting of the Manassas Park Economic Development Authority, the special meeting for March the 3rd, 2021, is called to order. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay, very good. Let's move forward with the agenda, the approval of the agenda. I trust that everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the agenda. Are there any items that are missing or any items that we need to add to our agenda for the evening? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's my turn.
The motion is hereby carried and the agenda is approved. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone signed up for citizen time this evening?
No, we don't.
Okay, very good. Earlier in the week, we were sent the minutes from January 20th and February 3rd. They were very comprehensive. I hope and trust that everyone had an opportunity to read them over. I did note one correction that needed to be made. Are there any other suggestions, revisions, additions that need to be made to the minutes from January 20th or February 3rd? Hearing none, is there a motion then to, I'm sorry? Michael?
No, I was just saying no changes.
Thank you. Thank you. So, hearing none, is there a motion then to approve the minutes for January 20th and February 3rd?
I saw a motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. The motion is carried, and the minutes from January 20th and February 3rd are approved. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
Nothing.
Laszlo, is there any additional comment related to the treasurer's report?
No, it was the same amount that you reported at the last meeting. $2,849.80.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item on the agenda, old business. There is no old business that is carrying over from the previous meeting. The next item of business is new business, and we'll move to item 7A, which is the final City Hall and public infrastructure budget presented by the city manager.
Great. Good evening. Great, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Economic Development Authority. So last night, the governing body did approve the final, somewhat final. They're still pending, final permit approval from city staff. So there may be some modifications there, but overall, it's near final form. It's specifically Exhibit C of the comprehensive agreement between the governing body and the developer Norton Scott. That was ratified last night, and I'm going to go over tonight what the final budget looks like and just give you a general update on kind of where we are with the EDA bond issuance that was approved at the last meeting as well. So while I talk about the bond stuff, I'm going to leave you with a nice picture of what the bonds that the EDA is issuing and supporting, what the city governing body lease payments, annual lease payments are supporting. That's kind of the latest and greatest concept from Norton Scott and DCS Design, who's designing the project of what the future is going to look like here. And you can see the City Hall, new City Hall building with the restaurant and the coffee shop, the plaza with the video screen. You'll notice that there's a new monument sign here, and that's for screening of some of the electrical infrastructure here that we're not able to remove. But we'll be doing some screening with landscaping and with the monument sign. Therefore, the sign's kind of gone away from the plaza or from the screen, so we'll look to see what we'll do there. The splash pad, building C, the garage, and then the other side of the plaza with more kind of green space, play area for kids, little a pad for concerts. And then you'll notice that the road, again, the brick pavers, what that allows us to do is when we can close this off here, this road, along with another piece back over here, so the whole plaza together, just like they do in Reston Town Center, can be utilized for larger scale events that we have in the city. So, and then this is building B in the future, the theater or entertainment concept that we're planning for as part of the future of this. So, well, this beautiful picture is up about what our future is, just to give you an update on the bonds themselves. So the preliminary official statement from that was drafted by our financial advisors, the bond council, reviewed by our development partner, by city staff, the city attorney. That was issued last Friday late afternoon after we kind of did our finishing touches. So it's essentially out in the marketplace now for review. We did do a credit. They wanted to check city credits, and still under the underlying annual lease payments, again, are still coming from the city. And because there's that non-appropriations clause, they want to just make sure that we're in a good, solid financial position. And the good news with that, and I think I informed the government, but I did so by email, but I'll inform you all in public here that both S&P and Moody's, no change to our credit score. The good thing was with S&P specifically, we changed from a stable outlook to a positive outlook, and that's just not happening right now during COVID. So that's just again a reflection of that we're on the right track right now. So that was exciting news. So the credit evaluation is done. The POS is out. They're hoping to take this to market by March 9th and hopefully close the sale there. And as you saw from my memo to you all, that's critically important we do so, because interest rates are starting to go up right now. They stabilized this week. That's the good news I found out last night. So the rising interest rates over the last 2 weeks kind of halted this week. Let's hope they stop their growth, because it's just adding cost to the project budget as interest rates go up. So hopefully they stay stable, don't go up anymore, or even drop hopefully over the next week when we finally go to sale and close that off and officially ratify all the documents that Chairman Boutros and I have been starting to sign this week for what was approved last time. So that's still kind of ongoing in the background based off of what was approved at the last EDA meeting. So I just wanted to give you that update that everything is still proceeding. Governing body approved the updated Exhibit C to the comprehensive agreement with the final budget numbers, which determined what the amounts were that we were going used for the project budget, and then the bond documents are still proceeding on schedule. Is there any questions with that before I go into this full presentation that goes over the numbers and what's changed? Okay, there's no questions.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
You said the rating was solid. What was the term you used?
Yeah, it went from stable to positive, so there's no change. We didn't go to AAA or anything like that. They're really not doing rate increases right now during COVID because there's so much uncertainty with municipal revenues right now. But just the fact that they gave us a positive outlook, that was I think the first time that our financial advisors saw that this last 12 months. So that was very exciting and kind of just a reflection of the financial turnaround that we did a few years ago as a city. It's still going, and there's still great confidence that we're on the right path.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Just to dovetail on that, do we have a rating?
We do.
Or
I can email you. Yeah, I forget what it is off the top of my head, but I will email you what the ratings are. But we're not AAA. But the good news is what the positive outlook does is it means that in a couple years, if they reevaluate us at that time, if our reserve numbers continue to go up and we stay disciplined in terms of debt and the geo debt continues to drop, there's more than likely chance that our credit score will go up. And so I think we're still 2 or 3 steps away from getting to AAA. But we're on that trajectory over the next few years if we continue the same path of building up reserves, staying disciplined on debt, and if this economic development does take off, then we're in a much better position, and that's how we'll best position ourselves to get to AAA by the end of this decade.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so just as a reminder, when we talk about the project budget, I showed you this all, I believe, in January, at the January 20th meeting, if I can recollect correctly, but I just want to, again, provide a reminder of what the public components are of this public-private partnership. You have the City Hall building, which is the biggest piece right here, the plaza and all the streetscape work that we're doing here to kind of have an integrated plaza across both sides of the project, and just some improvement in the pavers as well to have a better look and feel for this Four Corners area of our downtown. You have a few roads, Road A, which is currently Park Center Court, that's going to get, again, brick pavers. Road C and Road B, which are kind of the bypass roads and direct access roads for the residential community back here for Road C. And then for Road B, the public access to the garage, the public garage that we're going to have to support the VRE as well. And again, a direct road to access the City Hall parking lot, which is another public component here, the City Hall parking lot. So that's what Road B does. And then we have additional surface parking lot to continue to provide parking for the downtown like we currently have, so that the parking in front of City Hall right now is technically, it's ground leased to support the city center across the street, even though it's public property, but it's there to support kind of downtown parking. So we're continuing that tradition and then adding more robust parking via the garage spaces. So this is, the Manassas Park downtown garage, first level, the ground level will be for the city, and the top 3 levels will be for VRE usage. So 4-level garage. Exciting news we got last night from Delegate Rome that the state's going to do some significant investments, so I believe $88 million on the Manassas VRE line, through our station as well, to enhance service levels, in a post-COVID world when we get back to normalcy, expanded trains going back and forth, evening services and potentially weekend services as well, and the potential, for a station out to Gainesville as well. So that's, of course, a lot of that happened because of, the Amazon HQ2 investment. So VRE will begin to operate a little bit more like Metro, and that's going to be a tremendous enhancement for our downtown prospects here to have that increased mobility with the VRE. So the timing is great. Of course, the investments are going to be there right now for infrastructure. We'll just need people to get back to work and back to ridership with the vaccination process here that we have ongoing. And other costs here, your utility costs and your site work, those are usually some of the most expensive components of a project. So rock excavation, moving dirt, water and sewer lines, stormwater, especially stormwater. Those are usually going to be high dollar value or items, and that's part of this project as well, along with undergrounding the utility, these poles on this side of the street to really beautify our Manassas Drive, on at least for this section of the downtown, to make it look more like a modern town center. So that's just a reminder again of our public components of this public-private partnership. The budget, so I'm showing you the column here on the left is the draft budget that I presented to you all back in January, and now this is the final budget. So you can see the change from January to now. The City Hall, the bids for the City Hall project came way below than what we were expecting, so that was good. We had some savings. So overall, you can see we saved about $800,000 since the January draft, which was great because interest rates rose by 50 basis points, which added total costs over the 30 years. But luckily, we were able to reduce some of that with savings with the bids that they did get back. And then I'll show you in the next slide kind of what changed in the specific infrastructure budget, because you did have some increases there. And then again, just to caveat, there might still be some smaller changes that will come with the permit review process, which is still ongoing, but we hope to wrap up here over the next couple of weeks and hope to break ground by the end of this month, if not early April. So we hope to have an event for groundbreaking. Of course, with COVID, we're not going to make it a big event, but if we do an event, we will be extending an offer to not just the governing body, but to members of the Economic Development Authority and the Planning Commission as well, since you've all been an integral part of this overall effort. And it's just going to be great to finally see that next step happen, an actual groundbreaking for this project. Another note to caveat that a change that happened from when I presented to you this budget in January, the table stopped here under net position, and this was the amount that we were going to be setting for financing. So this 27.1 million is what we assumed. And the reason why we did that was because we were essentially setting up two funds, right? One from the EDA lease revenue bond, a source of funding from that, plus about another $1 million from another fund from land acquisition that came directly from the developer. We don't want to touch that other roughly $1 million in land acquisition. We want to put that aside to serve as a contingency for this project, because there's still some ongoing land acquisition issues. So when you factor out that $1 million roughly, the amount to be financed, if we were still with the January numbers, would have been roughly $28.3 million. Now it's 27.5 because of these savings. So it's slightly higher by almost 400,000 from what we were planning on issuing for financing. But it's less than what we would have had if we not had that savings. And then now we also have that extra $1 million in cash to then utilize for potentially any contingencies related to this, or if there are no further contingencies, then for some of the other costs that are not part of this project budget, but still part of the City Hall, such as the new library fit out as well, to get them the technology, the furniture, the increase in books, because now you're talking about a much larger library than the current one. So there's going to be some costs associated with that. There's costs with the kind of security system that we're going to put into City Hall, PA system, other things in the modern world, the kind of active shooters. We're actually, we want to have a very safe City Hall for our residents and our employees. So we'll be doing those kinds of investments here, proposing that in the CIP for the next couple of years. So that contingency fund can serve to pay for that as well. So that's kind of the change from last time, is we're not assuming that $1 million will go into the project fund. It's going to sit on the sidelines for a little bit longer until we resolve all remaining land acquisition. Again, as a reminder, these are the components, the updated now components of the total cost. And the next slide will show you what's changed, but you can see still the largest cost for this from a public standpoint is the City Hall at $16.2 million. Then the public plaza and the streetscape, that's associated with that as well. You have the roads. You can see Road A is the biggest price tag. That's your main road there with Park Center Court. Plus now with the brick pavers as well, that's another the cost. The surface parking lots, of course, are much cheaper than an actual garage. You can see with the 131 spaces in the garage will cost the city. But again, that uses a lot less surface area, and that's the benefit of the garage, and plus the 3 levels on top for the VRE ridership, which with the expansion ideas is really going to be needed sooner rather than later. And then you can see the associated utilities. Like I said, those are usually high cost items, $1.7 million for that. The other site work, $2.2 million. Those are big cost drivers for this project, as they always are for transportation and other facility projects as well. And then you have your contingency overhead, which actually went down. You'll see that in the next line for kind of contractor fees, insurance, things like that. This slide just shows what's changed since the last time I briefed you. So again, you can see the big drop in the city hall costs, about $1.3 million in savings since the last time I briefed you. The biggest increase actually came from the site work, and that was from rock excavation and dirt, moving of dirt, leveling it. Just the quotes came back because of the difficulty of work with rock excavation. So that added some significant costs. And then the Park Center court, making sure that it's aligned with the original vision that we showed the community back in the public hearing in March. That did show, the brick pavers. It fell off after that, and we wanted to make sure that we were staying true to what we were showing to our residents back in the springtime when the overall project was being promoted. So that did add a cost because it fell out of the project budget before, but we added that back in. And an updated profit model. So last time I didn't update this table, but now that we're kind of at final, I wanted to update the table with the latest and greatest will be in terms of numbers. You can see the tax revenues did drop off because of the reduction in residential units that we talked about last time, from 314 to 300. The proffer land revenue went up by $1 million because instead of putting it in the project fund, we're just taking it as a proffer or land sale revenue to put away in our bank account. And then the lease purchase cost, you can see, went up by over $3 million from last time. Last time it was around 43.3 million. Now it's $46.6 million, and that was driven from the $300,000 total increase in the project budget by not using that set aside $1 million in cash up front, plus the rise in interest rates that increased how much we're paying for interest over 30 years. But still, revenues minus the annual lease purchase payments from a city perspective, the net fiscal impact for our taxpayers is a positive $80 million over 30 years. And then again, as a reminder, this is a very conservative analysis because it assumes that we have $0 in sales tax, meals tax, and people, which we know is not going to be the case because we will have tenants in these facilities providing us those revenues. So that's just will add to the amount of money that will be available for current and future governing bodies to decide how to spend on priorities such as tax cuts, education, pay raises for city employees, etc. That will be available for future governing bodies.
What's BPOL?
BPOL is the business license tax.
Gotcha.
So business professional occupations license. So every business in the city has to get a license with the Commissioner of Revenue to operate in our city, and there's a fee associated with that based off of the gross receipts or sales of the business. There's a percentage taxed on that. And that's all I have in terms of an update on where we're at. Again, we're still moving forward here for the bond issuance here over the next week or so, and ready to get this project going. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Laszlo. Any questions, folks? I'll start with one, actually, or a couple that I have. What are you able to share, Laszlo, about, you mentioned some work that you're doing related to land acquisition right now. Now, as we look at the map, obviously right now there are businesses in phase one through. How is that going? Those discussions with those businesses and the land that they are currently occupying.
When you say phase one, are you talking about Park 170 across the street, or are you talking about as part of this project, phase three?
If you're able to talk to both,
Sure. Yeah, so I'd rather not.
happy to hear both.
Sure. So I'd rather not discuss the ongoing discussions that we're having with as part of the land acquisition here. That's actually more of a governing body closed session item that we have. So I'm not able to speak about that in public. For Park 170 across the street, we have a great partner there with Hosta Capital. They're actively negotiating leases for tenants, but it's waiting for the parking lot development. That's part of phase four. So phase four is still in its planning phases. Hopefully we'll be receiving a rezoning packet here shortly for the planning commission to begin reviewing, and the governing body decide. But most of the businesses are going to be waiting for that parking lot to be in motion, to be constructed to serve as the retail parking for that establishment. But there is a lot more interest now, even during COVID, for tenants to lease. That will only go up this summer because we're starting to see a slow turnaround, but a turnaround here in business sales. And just as an example, one of the restaurants that we've been engaging with for building C of this project, completely changed their tune within the last couple of months and really wants much more space than previously discussed. So things are starting to turn around, and as vaccinations continue to roll out, I'm hopeful this summer we will have an economic recovery, and you're going to have a lot more businesses looking to make the investment to come here, and more importantly, the banks opening up the lending for restaurants and retailers to actually establish themselves as well, because that's dried up right now. Banks are not taking that risk during the pandemic. So hopefully those dynamics will change this summer. Hopefully we'll have the rezoning in place for phase four, the site planning review, hopefully this summer as well for phase four. And hopefully they can start breaking ground by Christmas, if not earlier, of this calendar year. And we can start seeing that parking lot under construction to be able to close those deals with tenants across the street.
Are you able to share anything about some of the future businesses, namely the anchors that we've been courting lately? Is there any update there?
No update for Cinema Cafe. It's still everything's on standby until we'll see here. I think over the next few months, and especially in the summertime, with kind of the release of blockbusters in the theaters and with vaccination, will they see a rebound in sales? You started to see a little bit of uptick with Tom and Jerry, so that was exciting. So hopefully, as more vaccines are out there, the theater industry will recover this summer, and then we'll be able to close a deal with that. And there are other ongoing business negotiations that we're having, but those are still under non-disclosure.
Sure. Are there, forgive me for asking, are there plan Bs for that space? Just in case that the cinema industry doesn't bounce back.
Yeah. So, from my understanding, the theaters because there's still sales that are going to happen, right? So the theaters that are really food establishment and alcohol establishments that also show movies, right? They will likely be able to survive the post-pandemic world more so than just a standard movie theater. That's exactly who we're engaging. And pre-pandemic, there was discussions of having the building, half of it just be the theater and the other half kind of integrated entertainment concept with bowling, arcades, things like that. So will we go back to that? Potentially. I would hate to speculate until we get to this summer and we see how the summer blockbusters are doing, and we'll see how the theater industry will be doing. And again, but vaccines, we need to get more of them and distribute it a lot quicker. But I am hopeful by May, June timeframe, vaccines are generally available to everyone who wants to get it. And the good thing is with polling data, there is an increase or a decrease in hesitancy in taking the vaccine. So we need to kind of keep pushing that messaging and try to get as many people vaccinated as possible so we can get back to normal life, hopefully this summer, not hopefully by the end of this calendar year.
Hey, I had a question. You mentioned the VRE and HQ2 I guess I have not heard the news about any investments or funding. Can you elaborate briefly on that at all?
Yeah, so pretty much just a few months after Amazon made their announcement, there was word of approval for funding for improvements to what's called the Long Bridge, the bridge that connects Arlington to DC with the train utilizes. That was kind of step one for enhancing kind of rail capacity for more trains. And there was also approval for expansion of the Crystal City station, right, connecting it to Reagan National and also to the Amazon headquarters as well. And now there's talks about just additional funding for the VRE for track improvements to allow for, and that was what we heard last night from Delegate Rome. She was able to secure, or the Assembly was able to secure $88 million for additional investments, specifically on the Manassas line, to expand the amount of trains that can operate and to expand services to the evenings and on weekends as well. So that's kind of there was discussions about that a long time, a decade ago, I believe, about doing that, extending it over to Gainesville, making VRE operate a little bit more like Metro. That kind of died out, and then Amazon announcement kind of rejuvenated that overnight.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Laszlo, how many new tenants would we expect in the not on the park 70 side? Forgive me, I hope I said that right. But on the new like the City Hall side, how many new tenants do we expect there?
It can vary. The restaurant site for the City Hall could take 2 tenants. But I think based off who we're discussing with right now and how much space they want, it'll likely be 1 tenant, one larger tenant. You'll have 1 tenant in the coffee shop, so that's 2 for the City Hall. Building C, you can do 2 to 3 tenants there. And so right now, for kind of early discussions, I think it may end up being 3 tenants in that building, with 1 kind of in the back and catering to a little bit more more takeout versus dine-in, or people getting the food and going to the plaza. But it could end up very well just being the 2 businesses. So at the most, you're talking about 6 businesses just on the Phase 1A side, at a minimum 4. And then on the theater side, depending on how big, the theater will be or what's going to go there. If it's a smaller theater, you may have other retail opportunities there. But let's assume the theater still comes in 11 screens. There might be a smaller space for 1 additional restaurant next to it, and then you have 2 levels of office on top of that. So you'd have office clients going into those spaces. And that's about 36,000 square feet of office space.
Well, okay. So I'm just kind of roughing it out. It could be upwards of about 10 or so tenants.
Correct.
On that side of the street. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
So again, when we did the analytics, we realized the downtown, at least for our analytics, which may change with how if that change happens sooner, you're talking about a much smaller development than other town centers, but that's more market reality of what we have. So we're not talking about adding 30 businesses to this area. We're limited in how many businesses we can support right now. Hopefully, I think it will be incredibly successful, and on a per unit basis, each business performs tremendously. And then you may have additional opportunities in the future for market expansion to build even more retail, along as part of this downtown.
Right. This will sound like a silly question, but who aside from City Hall, who will own the other buildings?
Yeah.
Is that the developer?
Yeah, so the developer, Norton Scott, will own Building C, the building that's next to City Hall as part of Phase 1A. Building B is still up in the air, right? For last discussions, it looks like the theater would want to own it, but we still don't know, right? It could very well, and it could be owned on like a condominiumized association, so like the office and the restaurant pad owned potentially by Norton Scott and then leased there, and then the theater just owning their portion, or Again, it could very well just be a standalone theater if that's what they want to do and they own the whole thing, or it's all owned by Norton Scott and then leased to the entertainment anchor as well. So that's, building B is the one that's still up in the air, because that's still a few years away, because we have to get phase 1A done, and then the city has to move out. But we're still gonna be negotiating those things here, hopefully in the summertime if the economy can rebound in the summer.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. The directors, any other questions for the city manager before we let him go?
No?
Okay. All right. Hearing none, then, Laszlo, thank you so much for this, for the presentation that you gave. And it's good news to see that some of the items actually have gone down as compared to their projected costs. So
Absolutely.
that's good to see.
Thank you very much.
Of course. The next item is the chairman's report, and I have nothing new to report at this time. So I will then now turn it over to my fellow directors for any reports that they may have.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So we'll move on to the city manager report. Mr. City Manager, do you have anything further to add?
Yeah, just one update on the whole branding thing. I got back, I want to say 2 days ago, the initial kind of survey community forum framework. I haven't had time to review it yet, but my goal is by the end of this week or the weekend to review that with the branding consultants and hopefully get that live next week for our residents to start providing their input for branding. So we may be a little bit delayed in this project, but there's been a lot going on that's kind of delayed both sides from getting this done. So, but I just want to let you know that's still ongoing, and we hope to have kind of that community engagement thing hopefully take off next week, if not the week after.
Okay.
Excuse me, and my apologies for my tardiness. The question I have is, will there be an opportunity for the directors to review that prior to it being disseminated?
We won't have another meeting by that time, but certainly, I can, let me take a look at it and see kind of what position it's in, but certainly if there's any suggestions you'd want to make in terms of what you'd like to see in that, if you want to email me that, and then I can at least see if that fits it. But let me look at it first and see what it looks like, and I may be able to share it via email before we publish it, if there's any comments you all have.
Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing else to report.
Thank you. Do you have an idea of when we might see a follow-on presentation from that outreach?
I know they want to do another site visit this month. So I would suspect probably May is when we have a follow-on presentation. Or it may be available by April, so I can engage to see if we want to change the meeting date from the first week of April for the EDA to kind of later in the month, so we can review that specifically as kind of a special work session to review just the branding based off the timeline for when it'll be ready.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. With that, thank you again, Laszlo. So with that, before we move on to the final item, Director Tabachi, do you have any final questions or go backs or comments or anything like that before we move on to the final item?
What's next?
For the
EDA.
For the EDA, hopefully branding is probably gonna be the next priority to get that reviewed and implemented. The next possible steps would be kind of a marketing plan for the city, review that, and then also kind of a small business development program that's likely the direction we'll be heading. But I won't at that point see the need to meet every month. We could then at that point start talking about it a little bit less, because these things will take time. We don't have an economic development department here or a coordinator. There's a lot of things going on in the city. So I'm technically the economic development director, but I'm also the city manager, so I'm doing a lot of other things besides just economic development. And to be honest with you, a lot of my time right now is being spent negotiating with businesses and trying to get them here as well. So I'm more focused on business attraction, but there is a little bit of small business development. I connected a potential small business owner this week to the George Mason Small Business Development Center. They're looking to do something pretty interesting in our city. They're a resident. So there is still some of that going on, but we don't have an official small business development program yet, because we don't have that economic development coordinator or small business program manager to really take that full time and help with business recruitment and small business development. So those things will take time. We're not as quick as other jurisdictions in terms of getting policies and programs in place. We have to kind of prioritize our time with our minimal staffing on how to get the best return on what we're doing.
What type of residents does George Mason have here?
What kind of what?
Residents. You said they're resident here.
Yeah, the residents are the small business, the interested small business. But when I said George Mason, they have a small business development program. So you can refer people to there, and they help potential small businesses or existing small businesses with developing, things like business plans, introducing them to banks or SBA for financing for their business initiative. And that's
so that small business operation of George Mason is here in the city?
No, it's not.
They're helping the city, got it?
Yeah. There's just a center that does that. They offer that in a lot of areas in Northern Virginia.
What happened to Flory?
Flory shut down, what was that, a year and a half ago? I believe,
Okay, so it's sort of like filling in where Flory used to be.
Yeah, I think that the county ended up shifting some of their money to, I believe, the chamber and George Mason. The chamber put some additional money into George Mason to kind of help take that on.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Tabacci. Do you have anything else?
Oh, no, I'm good, thanks.
All right. Director Jones?
Yeah, just real quick. I would reiterate, I think what Director Durr was alluding to. I would definitely be interested in looking at the branding strategy. I know the gentleman presented on that last time, so if that requires, additional discussion or whatever, I'd be willing to do that. And then secondly, the George Mason, that small business piece, I think, as time goes on, I would think that's going to become pretty important. I've actually had a little bit of experience with the George Mason program. I think they had an incubator out in Innovation Center or something out there by the Freedom Center at one time. So that's an interesting idea. See if that might be a fit for some of what we're doing, but something to think about. That's all. Nothing else.
Yeah, so Laszlo, it's sounding like there's some offline interest. There's interest in offline either discussion or review of the marketing plan. So at least with Director Jones and Director Durr, at least.
Yeah, and we do have to be careful with that again, because you are a public body, right? So we need to make sure that we're not making a lot of decisions. There's not kind of conversations happening, active conversations via email, because that could be construed as a violation of Freedom of Information Act and public body meeting rules. And so if we want, let me talk to the city attorney and see kind of what the best way to manage this is. But
I don't want to cross any of those lines. So keep us straight there. But there is definitely interest.
Yeah, and if we need to schedule, another public meeting, to discuss things, we can certainly do that.
Absolutely.
So, just want you to be aware of that. I think that we do have flexibility to be able to do that. So, Director Jones, anything else?
No, that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Odell?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. And Director Durr, anything from you?
Nothing additional to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Final item of the evening is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
The ISO motion.
I move that yes, I move that we adjourn, or I second, if it was one made.
So we'll call that as Len he initiated it, and we'll say that Director Durr seconded it. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all.
And to